I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and it is that time of the year. The World Cup 2025 is approaching even closer, and teams are scrambling to get last-minute preparations and test their new combinations of players. So Brazil and Latvia, just as many other countries, organized a friendly 6-on-6 showdown today. It will be usual World Championship rules, with the one exception that, of course, we're playing 6-on-6 instead of 5-on-5. It's going to be a sequence of best-of-3 duels with a standard 15-minute time control, so expect to be somewhat entertained for the next 80 or 90 minutes or so. Hi Melvin, hi Murilo. I expect that today most of the chat will be rooting against me. I have a special relationship with Brazilian players, so I was in the Brazilian team chat yesterday, and not yesterday but earlier today, and already several hours before the match I've started reading some trash talk, but that's fine. Anyway, so the match should be pretty interesting because it's very close. We, together with the Brazilian captain, we've arranged the players in such a way that the highest rated player is playing the highest rated player and the lowest rated player is playing the lowest rated player. So we expect really 6 close duels. Also, the ratings are really close for all pairs. The rating, of course, is not the only metric of the strength of players, but that's what we got. So we should be expecting the games to start any minute now. So let's just run through the lineups real quick. Now, Brazil have brought a really interesting team this year. They probably are the youngest team in the entire World Championship. So if we exclude Edson and Fernando on tables 2 and 4, then the average age is probably below 15 years old, because Night Realm, Kelvin Gabriel, Ferzera, and Lucas Garbim, they're all from the Young Talent Project, which has been running for several years, so much so that some former young talents have become masters and national champions, and they already coach the future generation. So it's very interesting to see what the kids are going to achieve today. Now, in Latvia, we have all adults. Of course, metaphorically, they're all my kids, as I will be very nervous watching them today. So Napalm, the highest rated player, I think is in top shape right now. Should be very equal against Night Realm. Maris Lazdinch, only Denver on table 2. This is the table that we'll be focusing on at the start. It should be very interesting duel against Edson, and I really like watching Maris play. He's very deliberate. He has a very kind of like blocky style, which is pleasant to watch, and will be certainly a interesting clash of schools of thoughts against the more open Brazilian Carcassonne. Now, Dirty Old Town, Silent Monk, Apple G, Zone 222, and other tables. After we've finished watching Only Denver versus Edson, the second encounter, which I want to be paying most attention on, is actually Lucas Garbim, who's the youngest among Brazilian players, and Zone 222, who's not the youngest, but one who has not been that much on the stream, and I believe has actually a lot of potential. So it'll be definitely very interesting to watch those clash. So Only Denver versus Edson it is, table 2, and away we go. The first game has started just a minute ago, and Maris is the first to go with his traditional red meeples, Edson with his usual black. Now, great move here from the Brazilian, starting a new city, putting pressure on Red City, and also indirectly completing his road. But speaking of completing roads, a very nice response from Maris, looking to finish his 4-point loop. And he also note that he continues his road not from above but from below. This is to avoid exposing an additional attacking square. Black builds up his city on the left and immediately pays a price, as this road is slightly broken by red. Of course, still 7 crossroads in the deck, so this meeple should not be worried about its safety just yet. But another positive side effect for us, for Team Latvia, is the fact that this here road has prepared an attacking platform against the city. So even position so far, a slight advantage for red. Of course, due to the fact that red was the starting player as well. Hi, Victor. So Edson with the first monastery here places it in the highest scoring spots. It is probably the best move that I can see. Maris instantly responds, so he must have thought about it before he he must have thought about it whilst his opponent was still thinking. So there was a choice. He could have equalized his opponent's monastery, but instead he chose to go for a more imbalanced approach, putting pressure on some of these city squares. Now a very, very interesting decision for Maris here. So Edson is now trying to build up his city. He's trying to threaten up a 10-point city. And the decision that red had to make now was whether he wants to make a bigger city or whether he wants to prevent black from completing a city instantly and maybe turn this tile the other way and try to connect those cities. So red chose that he wants to separate the cities. So his plan is to go here and then maybe block black city together with his own monastery, then have a winning mini battle here on the left for 8 points for the monastery against 4 points for the city, and maybe threaten the completion of that city. The downside of that idea is that sometimes black finishes the city regardless and then still has time to connect to red city. But red decided that if that's going to happen, then at the very least he gets some monastery development for free. So certainly a reasonable decision. Red gets the first to be on the scoreboard as he takes a crossroads and scores 2 3-point roads with one move. A curvy tile for black. Not an obvious place to use it, but I see a couple of really strong moves here. Well, what options do we have? We could build up our monastery, but I think it's actually a mistake. I mean, it's not necessarily a mistake. It's just not the strongest move that I can see. A move that I would have preferred is maybe going here. So there's some reason behind this, but this square was actually rather sensitive. So Maris decided to take a really, really big gamble here, trying to threaten the completion of the city. Not necessarily what I would have done, but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So of course the disadvantage of this move is that Edson can very easily attack with a city cap, but the advantage is if black doesn't have a city cap, then black is just toast. It will be very, very difficult for black to do anything about this, really. And probably now, whilst red is trying to put some pressure on these squares next to black's monastery and black's road, I think black just got to ignore that and try and really create some threats against the city. Yeah, so this is a big, big mistake here by Edson. So we know that, of course, the move that I was suggesting would not have worked, but it is such an awkward development of that monastery. Because, yeah, sure, there's still 2 tiles that fit there, so in that sense you're saving your meeple, but you're eliminating the other 4 tiles that go there. Because there's still the regular crossroads that can go there. There's still monasteries that can go there. So black is really, really limiting the type of tiles that go next to his monastery. But I see this mistake quite a lot, that when players, expert level players even, sometimes try to protect their meeples at too great a cost. A very interesting move from black here. So black decides to drop the first farmer in good old Brazilian fashion. Maybe a little bit premature if you ask me, because red has such a great temporary meeple majority. So as black, I probably would have resolved the situation first and then dropped a farmer. But actually, no, you know, it makes some sense. He could also, he could have gone over here, actually. That would have been very nice. And that way he would have protected his city first of all, in a way that allows him to have more tiles. And second, in a way that gets him more points for the city. So what I mean about this is Maris just keeps munching on those quick points, but look at this, Edson now scoring 3 points for the road. Never mind, so I will talk about the subtleties of this move maybe a little bit later, there's just too much stuff going on. So finally Black is on the scoreboard, and suddenly Black has some legit options. So Red drops a farmer to equalize with the idea that if Black finishes over here, then Red travels right through over here and equalizes that farmer even without any extra effort. The slight downside of this move is that it puts some pressure on his own monastery square. So actually I would have, yeah, but I mean, what else do you do really? He still kind of had to play this. Edson takes 3 points, makes his monastery a bit more vulnerable, but he really needs the points at this stage. So Maris can actually block Black's monastery if he so chooses. He can go here, yeah, which is exactly what he does, and he even starts a new city, but he will get his city blocked as well, if Edson knows what he's doing, which I'm pretty sure he is. So the reason why this monastery is blocked, which is actually very clever, because you see there are plenty of tiles that fit here, and there's still 2 tiles that fit here, but there are no 2 tile combos available to fit both of these squares. Because as soon as you place something here, this gets blocked, and as soon as you place something here, this gets blocked. Yeah, so now Edson's trying to count tiles and figure out what to do with this clunky looking cow tile. There is a move which is easily best, so he knows that this monastery is blocked, and he can use a desperado tactic to borrow some chess terminology, going over here and tying the red city to this square, which would be all but blocked because 2 out of the 3 daggers have gone out, but instead he does not notice it. He obstructed the city a little bit, but way less than he could have. So Maris can just simply build up his city. He chooses not to. He chooses to continue his road in D instead. Edson munches on some quick points next to Red's monastery. Wait. Actually, let me just check this. Yeah, let me just zoom out properly. Okay, there we go. So, Maris takes 6 points next to Black's monastery, which is extremely unfortunate for Black, and now I'm really thinking what could be some possible comebacks. And I just don't see them. Like, if Red knows what he's doing, he should really be winning this game, because Red has both the scoreboard lead and the long-term meeple advantage. So, some things that Black could do is something like this. Yeah, start a new monastery, why not? But then at some point, Black should be looking to finish that monastery really soon. Then he should be looking to maybe blocking this square. Maybe going over here, reinvading that field, perhaps, because he's definitely going to need to have that field. Then finishing a monastery, and maybe finishing a monastery cluster if he draws all the remaining 3, but it's really difficult at this stage. And Red is not going to just silently roll over and wait until Black does all of these things. Red's going to create his threats on his own. So for example, by building up over here, he's actually threatening to get himself a split tile to finish this city, or all but finish the city. So now, of course, this unfortunate piece of junk is really impeding the development of that city, but with a simple splitter, he'll be able to separate. Now, this is a good tile for Black that he just had, but an even better tile for Red. This monastery cluster should absolutely spell GG, because not only does it consolidate this monastery, because this means that if Black finishes his city, which he should, then Red is going to be getting his monastery meeple back. But he's also, by starting a new monastery, is eliminating all attacking platforms against this field. And in fact, it's really Red who is more likely to invade the field than Black, because Red has this square over here available to him. And I can imagine a situation where, let's say all the other 4 crossroads are very quickly drawn, and it's something that actually Edson would like to... No, Edson. I know it's a decent move, but what he should have done, what he should have really done here, he should have gone over here, trying to pre-build the road and wait for a crossroads to score a gigantic number of points. So he tried to cover the most vulnerable square first, which is what he should do normally. But at this score, when you're minus 16 and minus 20 now, and your opponent has 2 monasteries and just a great overall health, then you should really risk harder. So look at this. Edson does get the crossroads, and he didn't find this option which could have given him more points. So this is why sequencing matters. If this curve were to be put over here, then black would have scored with the crossroads here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points for the road. But black instead scored only 2 points for the road. So, you know, you really can't afford to lose 4 points just because of a sequencing error when you're this far behind. That said, somehow black got himself a temporary meeple advantage. Black also managed to take care of the threat here at the bottom. Red now can no longer fit a splitter there. And actually, I wonder if red can fit anything there at this point. Red keeps... Black gets himself a new monastery, which I really like. What I don't like is the placement. I think it was a bit stronger to go over here, because this square is a little bit vulnerable. And also, if you go over here, then you can actually capitalize on some road building plus field invasion potential over here. And also another problem, so black actually ends up spending a juicy tile just to build up his monastery and help out red's city indirectly a little bit. There's still a couple of tiles that fit here. There's the 1 horse, and there's 1 road Dorito. So there are literally 2 tiles that fit over here, and then red will be able to take advantage of all these points left to him by black. Red is having himself a cow tile. Not an easy one to use. Oh, red goes for style points. I don't think it's necessary at this score. In fact, it actually gives some chances for black to come back into this game. Because, I mean, tactically, this works lovely, right? If the score were, let's say, if red had 20 fewer points, this would have been a great move. Because he's threatening to get a curve, or a crossroads, or a dagger, and then he's going to finish himself a nice road. And also gets himself a meeple into the field. But now what red is risking to lose 2 meeples for nothing. So even though the upside of this move is great, you don't really need the upside. Like, all you need to do is avoid disaster. And if I am Edson here, then I start to smell blood. Yeah, Edson now gonna go and block that square. Of course, there's still a 50-50 chance, but because there's still 1 tile that fits there. But you know what? I kind of feel that if black gets that crossroads, and if red does get 2 meeples stuck there, then black actually has some chances, some genuine chances to win this, which is not what you want to give to your opponent. Now black can set up some other threats, for example, going over here and preparing to draw the last horse tile and actually threaten the completion of the city at the top. So now this game gets interesting, which it really shouldn't have become. But Maris gets himself the last road Dorito to continue his city at the bottom. Edson probably has to go for the city at the top. He tries to finish it, but the last Dorito, the last field Dorito is drawn by only Denver. But wait, there's still a splitter. Dum dum dum. I'm rooting, of course, for my own teammates here, but you still have to give credits for Black's effort. Black City is live. a splitter plus a horse would put him in the lead on the scoreboard, actually. 24 points, I think, is going to be the value of that city, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, a little bit less, because the city is going to be shieldless. High Glavier. Maris, however, has a great time advantage. 9 versus 3. It's about what you'd expect in a difficult position. Players generally tend to spend more time. Yeah, and basically what Red's now trying to decide, whether it's worth to even be trying to complete his own city. Because the idea is this: if you go here, then the only tile that completes the city is the splitter tile. And so if your opponent draws the splitter tile, then not only does he complete his city, but he also denies you the city. So it is not unreasonable to actually not put that tile over there and try to wait for a sequence of 2 city caps. Yeah, and the more I think about this, the more I like this idea, actually. So maybe as Maris, we just do something like this. Get ourselves a monastery point indeed, and patiently wait for a city cap plus city cap combo. No, instead he goes for the splitter tile. One of the reasons why he did so is because there was still a cow remaining, which of course goes over here. And then he could also complete his city like this. Now, by the way, Edson needs to decide whether it's worth for him to use the cow. I think it is. Let me think about this. So there are no starting tiles remaining, and there are no barbed wire tiles. But there are still a couple of city caps available. And now we see Red's problem. Red actually can't invade that city. Because if Red invades, then Black can simply draw a splitter tile and separate. So again, Red goes here, Black gets a splitter and covers up. So there's really not all that much that he can do. I mean, he can still invade. So he does so simply to prevent Red from drawing other city caps, to prevent Black from drawing other city caps. And if Black is going to separate, then at the very least Red is getting a meeple back and some 4 points to go with it. Black is looking to continue his monasteries. Is he looking to meeple another one? That's the question. He decides that it is worth it, figuring that he can get his meeple back from elsewhere. Actually, yes, he can. That's very smart from Edson, because there are still 2 vanilla city caps that would go into this square. There are no monasteries remaining, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there are plenty of curves. So Maris can't even block that monastery effectively. Uh-oh. Uh-oh! A cow tile, a horse tile has been drawn by Edson, so he's 1 tile away from finishing his city. Honestly, now that I think about this, I think Maris has a way to win this even if the city gets finished, because he will take the first crack at the meeple that will be given back to him. He'll be also scoring some points for his 0 farmer, and I think it should be enough to withstand the pressure here. But yeah, but I didn't like Red's previous move. Red could have gotten himself a meeple back pretty easily. So Red should have really tried and just gone over here and freed himself up a meeple. So the remaining tiles are pretty interesting. So yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense. That's very smart here by Maris, but I think a rushed move by Edson. So Maris is trying to create a blocking platform. And look at, ooh, very interesting. Is he gonna bother? Is he gonna bother? Look at this, look at this. Okay, let's have a look. So what I think Black should have done, instead of finishing his city, Black should have gone over here, trying to protect this square so that he could draw a splitter. But Maris now needs to decide whether he wants to go over here, score 2 points for the road, 4 points for this one, get a meeple back, and then also connect to the field, or does he want to go over here and prevent Edson from drawing the splitter? And actually, I think that at this stage of the game, with the current score, I think we gotta ignore these two guys. Because what could happen? So if we go here, and our opponent gets the splitter in the next turn, then they go over here and they equalize the farmer. And then if that happens, then we don't really get any effect from this guy, because he will just reinvade from the top. But Edson gets a straight line. And I think this is something that Maris was counting on, that the only way he loses this game is if Edson were to have the splitter tile right there, right now. Because with whichever tile red has next in hand, he's going to go over here and he's going to block this square. And he's going to preserve his majority on the field, which is worth 12 points already because of these 4 completed cities. And this city as a ruin does not even exceed this city inside. And also, Black really doesn't have a lot of time to think. He also does not have many options to invade the field either. Actually, I see something. I see an interesting sequence. Black could go here in theory for a 6-point farm, or maybe try to, yeah, but I think really trying to block a square which is no longer relevant. Maris, of course, blocks. Edson, he can score a little bit, I guess. He can finish his monastery finally and drop a farmer. Hi, Luis Fernando. Well, one thing that he shouldn't do is lose on time. 45 seconds should be enough for the last 2 moves. Yeah, instead he makes sort of a normal move. Probably going to see a farmer here. Or a meeple on the city that works just the same. Straight line for Maris. He can just take a 6-point field anywhere, I guess. Maybe here or here. He might be tempted to protect his city instead, but actually he doesn't have to. I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm not sure what the last tile is. Yeah, he goes for the protection, so he must have decided that he... Unbelievable. And he is going to get the splitter and finish his big city. But one thing which is completely... Okay, this will... Like, I understand that he goes for style points once he has won the game, but... How do you not meeple anything with 2 meeples remaining? You gotta go for the 2-point road, man. Like, these sort of superficial mistakes, they will end up mattering way down the line. So red ends up scoring fewer points than they could have because they end up having way too many unspent meeples. But they will lead this giant monstrosity and win with, I don't know, 30, 40 points. Let's see what the difference is. Hi, P-chan. Players exchange handshakes, virtual handshakes, at least that's what GG means. Oh, look at this. It's actually not such a great difference. Despite the completed city, Red is only going to score 6 extra farmers comparison to Black. So Red is getting himself a 12-point farmer at the top with the 2 versus 1 meeple majority. Black is getting himself a 9-point farm as his last-ditch effort. And a smallish 3-point farm right over here by Red. So 24 points is the difference. It looks like Red had a really big advantage after completing this city, but then with some, I'm going to say, unnecessary risky moves, made it close, but that's what we're here for. Certainly, when games are closer, it makes things more exciting. Anyway, so we take down the first one. First in the best of 3 goes to only Denver. Let's now check out how Ilmar's Zone 222 is doing against Lucas Garbin. And they already finished both games. I did not expect them to finish them that quickly. I know that Brazilians have a reputation for playing fast, and some of my teammates do. I know it's also a vice that I try to combat unsuccessfully so far, but hey, if we're getting results, so 2-0, Latvia gets the first on the match scoreboard. How is Apple G doing? She's probably the fastest player in Latvia at the moment, so I'm not sure about the results, but I would expect for her match to have finished already. Well, ooh, here we're headed into a decider, so look at this. They did in fact finish both games. Egita took care of the first one, but Felzera came back very strong in the second one, defeating Egita with like 40 points or something. So let's have a sneak peek at this decider, and then we'll see how things keep developing on table 2. And I'm going to update you on the score on the other tables a little bit later. With 6 duels at the same time, there's only so much that we can follow. So 15 tiles remaining. This looks very, very good for the Brazilian. At least on the scoreboard. But now Egita finishes a road, gets herself a meeple back. And it does appear that we are in a big Brazilian field fight, is a term I use regardless of which team is playing. So let's see if the Latvian manages to defeat the Brazilian at his own game. So what are we having here? No meeples for red. That's Felzera. Apple with her traditional yellow. She has a big ruin here on the left, which scores her 13 points, which is basically enough to equalize the scoreboard. So we're gonna see how the field fight is doing, and that is just looking very, very good for red. Yeah, I don't really see how Egita can do anything about this, really, because red has such a majority on the field. Red has already meeple extra, and then red is threatening to invade one more with extra insurance. And red is also threatening to get a meeple back. And Egita, of course, is trying to invade the city, but it's just not going to cut it. Like, she's going to need to get either one meeple into the field, which is going to be enough to win her the game, or she's going to need to get 2 meeples into the field somehow. I don't know. But I think she's just giving up on the field here, which should not serve her really well. So she probably should figure that she does not have winning plays here. Hi, Bernardo. She's gonna score for the monastery, and she can't invade the farm anymore just because of how many points, just because of how many meeples there are. So red has 2 extra meeples on the farm. It's just mathematically impossible to come back from, and of course the farm is way, way, way too big for anything else to match her. And yellow tries to score a little bit. She equalizes the city at the bottom, which is actually a slight imprecision. She could have gone over here instead, gaining herself 1 extra point. Now this monastery, this road, it looks like it's just not gonna cut it because the field is simply way too big. It is 30 points with 10 farmers. And minus 16 is the score difference. And Brazil gets themselves on the match scoreboard as well. Yeah, very interesting position, quite an instructive one. So we don't know quite what exactly happened in the early game, but we see that yellow has this blocked ruin, and even though this ruin grew really big, like 13 points, which is way more than enough to justify the investment of a meeple, just because this position was so open, red was able to leverage his meeple majority to get himself some more farmers. So it's very difficult to say if yellow could have done anything. Maybe there was a way for yellow to just avoid this big field fight together, but it is sometimes just easier said than done. So minus 16, Felzetta delivers the comeback win. And Brazil 1, Latvia 1. Let's have a quick look at the other tables, I guess. And then we're going to go back to Maris. Well, something's dodgy here about Board Game Arena. Luis Fernando are asking, are championships usually hosted on Board Game Arena? Online championships, yes. Pretty much exclusively on Board Game Arena these days. At least the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship, Continental Championships, and many, many other ones. So Fernando has won his first game against Silent Monk. They're currently in their second game. Dirty Old Town, who has not been playing for a couple of months and is looking to make their comeback into the national team. Let's see how they're doing. They are playing a decider against Kelvin Gabriel, also the second youngest member of Team Brazil, I believe. A current student of the Young Talents Project. And they're having their decider. So let's see how they are doing. This game has just started, actually, and it looks pretty good for the Latvian. 14 extra points on the scoreboard, but red has plenty of threats. The main thing that red has going for him is that this city, where he has 2 meeples and green has only 1, it still has 4 tiles available to fit here. And then that city would score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at the very least 14 points. It would also help red develop his monastery. Red, of course, now making quite a sizable mistake, actually, by placing his last meeple. Not really something that you want to be doing when you're so short on meeples. So what else are we having? Red has a big problem in his position. It's not really the meeples, because the meeples are going to come back. Like, this tile is going to be drawn at some point with a 95% chance. The main problem in red's position is this road over here, which looked like was a road placed in the very first move, which should have, of course, been pointed upwards. So we're having some problems here. And it's not necessarily that this meeple is going to get trapped, although there is a threat of that. Have a look. So 3 starting tiles out of 4 have gone. So if Uldis, that's Dirty Old Town, going to get a tile that fits here, then this square is going to get blocked. And that certainly would be most unfortunate for the Brazilian here. Quick points are being collected by the only player who has meeples. Kelvin now is very close to getting a monastery meeple back. But let's see if he pays for it with the integrity of his road meeple. I don't think he does. I think what Uldis wants to do is just maybe finish his monastery. But here's the problem. So you see, as green, we kind of want to go over here and build up like this. But if we do so, red can just go here. And red can simply equalize this road. So that's why green chooses to play his last meeple on that road. Let's see if that pays off. Okay, we need to zoom out a little bit more. So now both sides have a meeple again. Kelvin's still behind on the scoreboard. But again, that triple city tile is going to make all the difference in the world, the one that fits into this here square. And actually, if he does get it, he's gonna get 14 points and 2 meeples back. That's essentially enough to equalize. Uldis is trying to build up his city. And Kelvin finishes the city for 16 points, even not 14, because that tile had a shield on it for extra 2 points. But Uldis gets himself an 8-point city and renews his advantage in the position. He also has a monastery, which is soon going to be completed. And there we go again for another Brazilian field fight. It looks like there's going to be another gigantic field. And yeah, what do you do here as green? I guess as green, so you should be really happy with your position, because we're even on the scoreboard, but green has just a little bit more stuff. He's going to get his monastery meeple back and his city back, and that's more than enough. So if we just manage to maintain parity on the field, we should be doing pretty well. But I know that from green's perspective, this move with a meeple here could be very, very enticing. I just feel that this is not what we do in this position, even though it's amazing on equity. It's like it's a 5-point monastery move with an unblockable square here, which supports 2 of our other features. I kind of feel like long-term, these 9 points that you can get from this monastery is not really gonna matter. So the move that I prefer here for Uldis, from green's perspective, is to go here and drop a farmer. So the point is that if red gets himself a curve, which he does now, then we would have equalized this farm. So Uldis instead goes for the scoring route. He gets himself the monastery, but the reason why I think this move, although it's super, super understandable, the reason why it does not work in that particular instance is because these 9 points are just not going to be enough to compensate for the field. Well, maybe. So when you get a monastery in a middle game position like this and you decide whether it's worth meepling it, why did I lose my train of thought? Oh yeah, so basically you're just gonna need to see how big your opponent's field is. And at the moment it is still manageable, like 15 points is not that much. Especially now, after the 5 points that Dirty Old Town score for this road, it all looks good. And then these monasteries, with their 18 points potentially, they're going to outscore that 15-point field. But there's one consideration extra. First of all, this field has green squares for development at the top, so it's not going to stay at 15 in all likelihood. But second, with a couple of curves over here, these 3 cities could become part of the big field. So even though this monastery has an excellent chance of being completed, I wonder if it simply just is a bit too slow. But there's still ways of... What is that move? Huh, what are the... I don't get this. Well, an extremely risky move from Kelvin, which is going to pay off, because Uldis is... But you see, but now he decides to fight for the field. Like, what's the... Yeah, okay, I see the idea, So he does get himself a meeple back from the city. A scoring tile for Kelvin, and still the majority on the field. So this farm actually makes some sense. So the idea here is to either connect to the main field or simply enjoy a 9-point field that he has at the bottom. A very unclear position. I probably slightly prefer red here. But it really depends if red manages to complete his city at the top. Or maybe if green invades the big field, then red with his meeple majority can re-invade. So imagine if green gets a curve here. Then red can get a straight line like this and invade through one of these two squares. Or red just chooses to invade instantly. Which actually is quite difficult to react against. So what do you do here as oldest? So do you just go the full scoring route and just meeple another monastery with the last meeple and then hope to get a curve to get a meeple back? Or do we just go here, take 2 points, and try and play against this farmer? Because actually if we go here and then we get a straight line, then because there are no more monasteries remaining, well, at least no more road monasteries remaining, we can block this square. So he does go for the monastery move, but without a meeple, which is pretty interesting. I guess, yeah, it's quite tricky to invest a meeple here. So, red connects to the field at the bottom. Green successfully manages to block the city at the top. Red drops more city caps into the field to develop it. Yeah, and actually now green has a problem. Because this field is going to be so big that it's just... I don't think anything else is going to matter in this game. And you know what? I think green's only chance to win this... Actually, no, I take that back. Hey, green can win this. Because the idea is this. If we get a crossroads here, yes, we lose the field. And the field becomes even bigger. It's going to be 24 points, but we're going to get 2 meeples back. And these monasteries already score pretty decently. And maybe if we, like, clean off the city caps and get a 6-point ruin, then we can sort of kind of win. So let's see what Kelvin does here. There is a correct move in this position. Kelvin can just simply take 2 points over here and exhibit further pressure on this here square. Now Uldis urgently needs a crossroad, so he has to protect that square now. And I guess the way we protect it is do exactly this, but it allows Kelvin to make a nasty, nasty move. So of course he's gonna go over here. He's gonna connect over. He is gonna connect all the fields, and he's going to even circumvent this critical square, leaving, by the way, only 1 tile to connect here. Whoa! So he did not find this move. Is gonna pay very, very dearly for that, as Uldis gets himself 2 meeples back. And also a legit chance to equalize the field if he so chooses. The field is worth 24 points, the monastery is 8, and the road is 5 for red and the city is 3 for red. So, yeah, and Uldis just drops quite an easy, straightforward farmer to equalize the field. So, I think a big, big mistake here from the Brazilian, failing to block that square with the straight line. Now, of course, he's still trying to do something about this, but he might even succeed. Because Uldis is still 15 points behind. He has a meeple extra, which he could use, I guess, to go here and score 5 points. But he's gonna still be down 4. Also note that there's no Dorito with a road that fits here, so the idea of somebody snatching a 10-point city or an 8-point city with 1 move is not really possible. Yeah, so green goes for the farmer. Kelvin makes a rather easy block. There are no curves remaining and no road monastery, so there's nothing that fit into that square. And he also scores 4 points for the monastery itself. So 8 points is what green is behind at the moment. And I don't see how we can make 8 points with 1 meeple. We could go over here, perhaps, and just take 2 points with 0 meeples. Or we could try and create some sort of field attacking platform. But I felt like if we're going to create a field attacking platform, we should have done this on our last move. So we could have gone over here, and then after red blocks this square, we could have gone over here to drop a farmer like this. Provided, of course, that there are still tiles left to fit there, which there are. There's at the very least a starting tile remaining, which can be used as a road tile. Oh no, there are no starting tiles. But there must be something, no? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, there are no straight lines, huh? We're actually surprisingly short on road tiles. Is there anything there at all? Daggers. Daggers. There are still daggers. There are 2 daggers, 1 of each kind, and they can be used as road tiles. So you know what? This is not the move. This is not the move. This is a miscount. He may be hoping for a curve or something, or he just wants to maybe take away this 3-point field. Wait, or did I miscount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No. I did not miscount. There are no curves to fit into this square. And well, there's actually a chance for Uldis here. He can go here, drop a farmer like this, and hope to connect through the outside of a curve. And I think if that's going to happen, he's going to have 1 in 6 chance to win. So there are 2 daggers and something else. I forgot quite what it was. And he basically needs to hope that his opponent does not draw a dagger on his next move. Is that it? Oh, actually, no, I don't think that works. I think regardless of what Uldis pulls, or regardless of what Kelvin pulls, Kelvin will be able to block. So, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, that all the remaining tiles are city tiles. So if we go here and drop a farmer, then Kelvin can go here to equalize a farmer on his own. But yeah, so that's why green doesn't even try this. Kelvin gets 1 dagger. Oh, the quadruple city tile. So we should have tried this. Ay. So of course it would not have mattered, but we missed here, from the Latvians' perspective, a 1 in 6 winning chance. And the sequence was, so we go here, drop a farmer, and then Kelvin draws the quadruple city tile with which they cannot do anything. The best that they can do is go here and restrict our invasion square. And then we get this here dagger that red drew, and then we invade the field. It was a 1 in 6 chance, which is a lot better than 0. So that is an endgame puzzle that I will definitely use with my teammates for practice. Yeah, very interesting game here. I felt like green was doing so well, but ultimately, as much as I love meepling monasteries, as much as they are like all the rage, I think that the move that lost him the game was this here monastery. It's, I would gonna say, a strategic error, just because even if you were to complete this monastery, these extra 9 points would not have significantly increased his winning chances. What green had to recognize is that this city plus this monastery were already good enough, and if you were simply to keep parity on the field, then it would be very difficult for Kelvin to come up with a way to equalize the scoreboard. But it's a very, very difficult observation to make, because this monastery does indeed look perfect from an equity perspective, but there are exceptions to everything, and we did witness one of those right now. Anyway, exciting games. So same theme. Brazilian takes down big field and wins game. And with that, another point for Team Brazil, which is not great. So Kelvin takes down this one. Now, how is Napalm doing? Our highest rated player finished top 8 in the Carcassonne Champions League, and they are having themselves a decider. Well. So why don't we have a look at what's going on there? We will come back to Maris at some point. But a decider cannot be left unattended. Well, the starting position looks just amazing for Nitrealm here, the Brazilian player. We're of course equal on the scoreboard, 2 versus 2, but Red has the starting player advantage. Well, fortunately for us, Red I think makes a mistake. Oh no, that wasn't... Yeah, that was Red. He should not have helped us. He should not have helped us like this. So look at this, just Giannis has to be super happy. He just got himself a boatload of points out of this. Well, a boatload is 4, but the main issue is that this guy is not threatening to complete his city anymore. Yeah, that was a really surprising mistake on Nitrealm's part, because I have played with him a lot and actually lost plenty of games to him as well. He's a really strong player, but these opening positions can be tricky for many. So even though it's super tempting to create the threat of the completion of your city, what Red should have done is been super patient and wait in particular for a road Dorito tile, so that he would not, first of all, be finishing his city as opposed to just continuing it, and second of all, that he would not be easily giving a meeple back to Napalm. So this position has now suddenly changed. Blue equalized Red's monastery, and Blue is 8 points ahead on the scoreboard. So there's of course some tricky situations here. It could really be resolved either way, and actually a lot depends on who's gonna first draw a Dorito, or in particular triple city tile, because if Red draws a triple city tile, he's gonna go here and try to eat up the city from above. If Blue draws the triple city tile, he's gonna go over here like this and try to eat up this triple city from below. Now Red's the first to take a crack at the triple city tile. Napalm is doing really not great right now, but you know what, with 12 points ahead after he continued this city, maybe we can actually even survive this. So he's continuing his city on the right, whilst also exposing a blocking platform against the city at the top. And of course, our next plan is to get a city cap here and try to expose this square, but this is way better to take immediate action. Red immediately gets a tile that allows him to keep continuing the city. And now an interesting decision for Giannis here. So do we just take the 6 points and acknowledge that if Red successfully completes the city, it will be just slightly behind? Or do we do something like this? That's actually pretty interesting. So we do continue our city indirectly, whilst also creating an attacking platform over here. Red is not able to defend. Blue gets himself a nice tile, but not as nice as he would have liked. Really, no obvious moves here. So one other move for Blue that I was considering is just going over here, starting a new city at the top and trying to invade from above. Is that he's trying to invade from the right, but he didn't quite draw the tile to do that. So now the best move, yeah, it could be like this. I think is the second best move, although it could work. So I think the best move is actually to go over here and start a new city like this and protect this guy. But instead of protecting his city on the right, he chooses to restrict Red's road on the left, which actually works for now. Red, of course, covers up the city square, but we're going to see some further invasions being done, some further threats against it. I presume that the move from Nepal is to go here. Note that here is a bit imprecision. It was slightly better to go on the other side, but it doesn't matter. As a really fortunate tile draw for a Night Realm allows him to complete this giant city. So that's why from Nepal's perspective, first of all, we don't need to cry about it too much. Like, it's not such a bad position. If we just finish the city on the right, we're going to get at least 10 points. We're also getting 3 points extra now. Like, we can get a monastery. A lot of things can happen. Red will be the first on the farm. Again, which is not ideal, but, you know, it is what it is. Naipamai gonna take 3 points on the right, I presume, or maybe finish the city on the left. I think it's a bit not strong enough. Gotta go for that city on the for that road on the right. Nitram, of course, gonna take a 3-point road on the right. $20 points. It's really not great to be this far behind. You know, there's still plenty of things that we can do with the monastery in particular, but first of all, we need a Dorito tile right now. We're really got to finish that city. 11 minutes on both the players' clocks. Straight line for Giannis. That's a great tile. You know what? Why don't we go here and create a 50-50 chance for an 18-point move? That also makes sense, but I'm not a fan of moves like this because it just gives such an easy road monastery back to our opponent. I think this was really not the worst move, even though it would significantly restrict. And I still like it. Yeah, Red is now starting to make mistakes here. This move is not good. Like, it is sort of kind of developing his field, but this here combo is a bit vulnerable, and I wonder why Red chose to not protect his road. Red, in fact, had an excellent move available over him. Just go here. Maybe even with another farmer or something. And then set up one of the 2 remaining road monasteries. At this point, I really like this move maybe for blue, or this move really for blue. It's not an easy line to be placing. Let's actually have a quick look at how other games are developing. So Silent Monk and Fernando are also playing a decider. And as for only Denver, I don't want to know. Let's have ourselves a surprise, right? Giannis is still thinking where to deploy the straight line. Honestly, just putting it next to the monastery and hoping for the 50-50 is not the worst idea ever. He instead chooses to slightly restrict Red's monastery, but it's not really a restriction, I think. Yeah, I think he just placed it for lack of a better move, really. But no, there were better moves. Like, just going here is really not that bad. I know that you don't want to go for the 50-50 perhaps. Okay, I'm about to eat my words. Now, Giannis has a great move, going for a 75% chance to get this monastery. Yeah, that works just fine. The big problem for us is that we lose our city. This is really, really bad. Yeah, and I understand this move. It wasn't bad. It was an interesting move. Ooh, that's smart. Look at this. So Giannis is really going all in on the protection of that square. I really like the risk-taking approach. Okay. Road Monastery, 18 points on the scoreboard. There we go. Now we're cooking something up. I mean, not really, because Red just dropped his second farmer. Red is still ahead 11 points, but you know, something could happen. The quadruple city tile is actually really good for Red. He has to meet... Give me a break, man. Like, how do you... Come on. This was... Like, Red had to meeple that city. It's a very... not difficult decision to make, because you know that your opponent, blue in this case, can easily draw one of the two cow tiles, in which case he's going to have a pretty sizable ruin plus some very good chances to complete this city. Well, maybe not good, but some chances to complete that city. And with 3 meeples, why not just eliminate that threat? Also, Red's playing pretty interesting. So Red now drops a second farmer, but in a completely different location. And I wonder if Red can even afford to do that. I see what Red's plan is. Red's plan is to draw both cow tiles and then to not even allow blue to fill the square. But I'm going to argue that even if he were to draw both of these cow tiles, a red meeple here would actually serve him really well. Because if you were to draw these cow tiles, he can go here and here, bringing his ruin up to 8 points, which is about as much as you can score in a position like this. So that would have been a good investment of a meeple regardless. Napalm still has chances. So he needs to now go over here with a straight line. And then he needs to get himself a cow tile, which is still doable, and then finish his monastery with another monastery. There's still one of those remaining. Instead, he goes for a farmer, which I think a tad premature. But okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. Dagger tile for blue. I presume we want to score quick points here. 3 points for the road, plus an extra point in case we do get this this cow tile to connect to this piece of a ruin. We might go here and try to obstruct the city instead. It's not necessarily the worst decision. Let's see what blue decides in this instance. He goes for the quick points, which makes a lot of sense. He's not even that far behind on the scoreboard, and a curvy tile for Night Realm. It's actually great news for us. Well, really, any tile that isn't a city cap is great news, because red is not yet completing his city, and maybe from blue's perspective we get a chance to block that city. Red finally saves his road, which was under attack for so many turns. Giannis with a really useless tile, actually. Really not sure what he can do here. Oh, I know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know what? We gotta go here. We gotta meeple that road. It's 5 points. It's a lot of points. And then we're gonna try and finish that road, yeah. That sounds like a solid idea to me. With 3 road ends available, 2 crossroads in the road monastery, we gotta go for it, my man. Another option is to go over here, trying to set up a road monastery together with a 5-point road, and he goes for this. I can respect that too. Of course, a cow is drawn by Night Realm, which is really not great news for us. Because this square is now blocked, and this monastery setup is not going to work, and the city's not going to get any extra points. Yeah, rough. And you see, now red meeples this anyway. So, like, what was the point of not meepling that city earlier? But at the very least, red doesn't have any meeples. So maybe that's something that we can exploit. So again, from Napalm Eye's perspective, we can still go here and meeple this 5-point road. And we can still go here late. Sure, yeah, that also works. I think the road is better. Instead, he goes for a rhombus-shaped city or maybe a different type of city. That could also work. Just keep scoring, 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 scoring. It is possibly doable. Just because of the maple advantage, 16 tiles should still be enough to do something. But we need a big setup. And you know what? There is a setup that I see. Well, not anymore. I was going to say that there's this road monastery over here that we want to drop a farmer like this and try to get a road monastery and eat up this red farmer and then get ourselves a road and finish the monastery. But all these dreams are not going to work. Blue with a city cap, looking to maybe invade red city on the left or finish his own city on the left, or maybe continue his city on the right. Yeah, what does blue do here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's still multiple Doritos available. Yeah, I think at this point we actually have to equalize Red City. Because I don't think we can allow Red to get 8 points on the scoreboard and a meeple back. But instead, Blue chooses to gamble a little bit more and immediately pays the price. This extra meeple for Red is just going to do wonders for him. But you know, everybody makes mistakes like this, but even the best players honestly sometimes underestimate the power of 8-point cities. This is something that occurred as well in one of my own recent games. In fact, in game 3 of the final of the Carcassonne Champions League, there was a key 8-point city that I managed to get away with. Okay, so Giannis gets himself to score a little bit. Nitral can actually just use his last meeple on the field. Instead, he chooses to continue his road, which makes a lot of sense. Well, now Giannis, of course, is going to take the 9-point field. And maybe we can cook something up here, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah, there are no curves remaining. So nothing's really going to work here. Honestly, I just kind of want this game to be over. I mean, we should still fight. We still have 4 minutes. But I don't see really anything that blue can do here. So behind the scoreboard, we're equal on monasteries. Our opponent has the better ruin and the better field. Well, there's maybe something that we can do. Is there a vanilla city cap available? No, there isn't. Yeah, what's even worse is that since there's nothing left to fit into the square, we can't even access this 9-point field of our opponent. So probably the best that we can do is just take a road, then get a crop. Yeah, sure, we can do that as well, but I don't think we can really afford to spend moves on blocking at this stage of the game. Anyway. Oh, this is something. Okay. Now we're doing something. We're about to get a 10-point city. Our opponent gets a scoring tile, which they use to finish their monastery. They should have even meepled the road, by the way. Napalm Eye with a scoring tile of his own. We're gonna get 4 points. Yay! Which also means that we should have meepled the road in our last move. A Dorito tile not for us, but for Red, who's going to use it to score a 4-point road. whilst also trying to obstruct blue city on the right. I presume that this is the move. It also sets up a 4-pointer instead this, which is really not the strongest decision. I think at this point, from the perspective of both players, you should really start spending your meeples. But we know that it won't end up mattering. There's still one Dorito remaining for blue to finish his city, which I think he deserves. We deserve a Dorito here. Just make the score a little bit better. Or, you know, somebody distracts Night Realm for 6 minutes and 22 seconds. We can also win that way. I'll take a win on time. I don't care. I don't have principles. In fact, I do have principles, and my principle is that wins on time are absolutely wonderful. So let's try and get one. But in order for that to happen, we need to not lose on time ourselves. Oh, look at this. I actually get news from both other games, and they're really not that great. So apparently, the score... Yeah, so Giannis does drop a farmer, which makes a lot of sense. And now red starts a new city, which also makes a lot of sense. A road tile for blue is going to allow him to score 4 points somewhere. Or just 3. Yeah, 4 points for the road at the bottom. But in order to do that, he needs to calculate whether there is a city cap remaining for red over here. Well, let's try and figure out what the last tile actually is. Or maybe not. Oh yeah, of course it had to be the Dorito, right? Which we needed! We needed this Dorito. It was a nice idea to start that city on the right. We deserved it! Anyway, I don't think that the extra 10 points would have helped. So very rough match for Team Latvia, as Giannis will lose this one and Brazil is going to get themselves another match point. We're going to check the difference. We're supporting them in the tent like this. Before you leave, tomorrow we're having a big event. March 23rd, 1500 UTC. I'm playing a streamers match, long-awaited streamers match against Nalaheim, a best-of-5 encounter. That should be a lot of fun. Then next weekend, I'm streaming all the matches of Copa America, which will feature Brazil as well as many other teams.